My name is Gershon Willinger. I was born in 1942 in Amsterdam, Holland, from German Jewish parents who came from Dortmund. My mother came in the very early 30s. My father came in the late 30s and escaped to Holland because of the rise of the Nazi Party, and they thought to find a safe haven in Holland. When my parents came to Holland, and as I always explain to people, we have resistance fighters, but my parents, I see them as resistance fighters because they selflessly gave up a baby to friends of theirs in the north of Holland, where the town was all working for the resistance, and I was hidden there. So my parents, in actual fact, didn't know whether they would ever see me again. At the end of 1942, beginning 43, my name was given away. My place of hiding was given away, although the whole town, which was name was Koevoorden, was working for the resistance. There was one rotten apple, and the Dutch police came. I had to be a lady that worked for them, also a Jewish lady, was in hiding. They had to get me ready, and the Dutch police picked me up. So I was taken away from them. It was a crime to hide a Jewish child. So my foster father, my wartime father, better to say, was taken to prison. Luckily, he was not murdered, because as a Jew you were a commodity that had to be abused, used, and then killed. So he was lucky that he came back, and he really jeopardized his whole family, and we called it righteous among the nations. I was taken from their home to Westerbork. Westerbork is a camp, a transit camp, a transport camp in the north of Holland, where the trains left every Tuesday morning for the east. I was on my own place there in the children's home. Although there was no availability of medicine or all the proper things that should be available to a small child, whatever walk of life you came from as a Jew, you were placed there. But most children of my age and babies came with their families. I was placed there on my own. I remained until the 13th of September 1944 in Camp Westerbork. A doctor took care of me. My name in camp was not Gershon, it was Fritz, with an S as a Dutch name, because my wartime parents, let me refer to them as, they gave me the name Fritz. I finally, on the 13th of September 1944, with a group of 50 other children, and we were then to go to final destination Auschwitz to be murdered. This did obviously not happen. What happened is we went on the very last train that left Holland in 1944, the 13th of September, that left for the east, the very last train. So not only our group was on the train, other people were also on the train. The Allies were already advancing, and they had already blown up the railroads. We went to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. Typhus was rampant there, and we were segregated, we were quarantined in a separate barrack. In Bergen-Belsen we stayed a couple of weeks, maybe 6 weeks, I can't tell you the exact time, but from there we went to our final destination of Theresienstadt. In Theresienstadt we stayed from not from September 44, from probably the end of 44 until the summer of 45. So my memory starts working, smatterings of memory, when the liberators came, having been in the camps and having been everywhere and not having received proper care. It made an impression that I was picked up by somebody and hugged, and it probably was one of the Russian soldiers who came to liberate us. What I then start remembering is a big trip back to Holland. I remember going into an army truck back to Holland, And it took a long time, about 3 days, I would think, although at that age you don't have a concept of time. And I remember us picking up little groups of children everywhere on the way to Holland. And then what started was the Little Holocaust. The Little Holocaust refers to all the small children who maybe have a smattering of a memory. Those that were older than myself, 5, 6 years old, knew more, of course. But what do they do with those children? So I somehow, I came back to my wartime parents. I stayed with them for a while. I got used to them, but then the Department for Jewish War Orphans came and took me away from there, and it was a shock when I was taken away. Although it was not such a shock because I hadn't had a proper life until then. Once I got used to that place, I was taken away again. And I was taken to a sanatorium. A sanatorium is where you get your health back, you get good food, it's near the seaside. And I stayed there for a couple of months, thinking as a small child that that was the place that I was going to stay. I got used to that place for a short while, but didn't have enough time to get used to that place, and I was taken away from there. And I went to an aunt they found from my mother's side. I came to this aunt, and I remember going to school there, and I stayed with her for a while, and I started school. I walked on my own to school. I was very independent, and once I got used to being there and started school, a childless Jewish couple came, and they picked me up from there, they didn't pick me up, they brought me presents, and the week after, this aunt asked me if I would like to visit them. She packed a little suitcase, and I didn't see my aunt again. This was 1950, and this was then to become my home for the next 10 or so years. I was 8 years old, it was 1950. And then I found out slowly that I had parents. They were called Guido Willinger and Edith Helene Willinger Rothschild, or Rothschild in German. And they were murdered on the 2nd of July, 1943 in Sobibor in Poland. This did not make an impression on me because I really didn't know what it was to have parents. But surprise upon surprise, I also found out that I had a sister who was still alive. I had not met this sister yet. Her name is Rita Hanna. And Rita Hanna, I was introduced to her while I was with my foster parents. I met her. I think because she was 2 years older than myself, there was a photo taken of Rita with my father, with our birth father. But it didn't mean anything to me because I had lived in so many places. And for her, it meant more that she found her little brother. I joined a Jewish youth movement, and it was at the time a movement that geared you to go to Israel, and called Habonim, and I left for Israel. I left for Israel because I didn't want to stay in the country that did not do their duty in protecting my parents or the Jewish people or myself. And when I came to Israel, which was a country that accepted me for who I was, it also allowed me to get a citizenship without asking questions. So I went into the Israeli army and volunteered. I volunteered to my unit, which was became a paratrooper, and I was very proud of that. Of course, there were lots of skirmishes again and wars that you had to participate in. However, I knew there was a good reason why I did that, because I was with my own, and it felt good to be with my own. I met my wife, a Jewish woman from England. She came to Israel, and we married in Israel. What can I say? I can say that we left Israel purely for economic reasons, because it was very hard to maintain ourselves in those days. I had to raise 3 children, which 2 daughters and a son. And so we came to Canada with the thought of going back, but here we are today. It's in a very good country where we live. We were lucky to be able to live in Canada, as it is a free country and we can live here. When I left Europe, I promised myself I would never ever live in Europe again, either in Israel or North America, and that's exactly what happened to us. Today, I can really say I have my family. We always call it the war Hitler didn't win. We have got 3 children and 7 grandchildren, which we're very proud of. And they all live close by, so that's very nice. I always tell young people to never be bystanders. Always tell young people not to be good people who do nothing. Stand up for who you are and what you are, and don't take for granted that you live in a free country. And that's about, in a nutshell, my story.